Welcome to my online lectures on data structures for BCA first. In this video, we will discuss about the unit 2 of CP2, that is array. Linear data structure. Linear data structures like one-dimensional, multi-dimensional array, pointers array, single linked list, circular linked list, double linked lists are in this particular unit. So now we'll go for the introductions of array. An array is a single name for collections of data values. All the same type of data in an array. Subscripts and notations to identify one of the values. The array is the important concept and helps the programmer in mapping many variables of the same data type. So now in this particular slide you'll find the array can be defined a single name for a collection of data value. That means one name consists of several data values may have. So name of a particular array can be defined as a variable name. So under that variable, same or similar data types of values can be stored. All the names must be the same type, that means same data type. And when we are identifying a particular value, it takes the reference or it takes the notations of an array index. So by taking the array index, we can find out the value of that particular array. So now the array is the important concepts which helps for making the mappings between the variables and the values. So it's the simple kinds of definitions of array. Next we'll have an example for that. So now where we can use or which scenario we can use the array. So array can be used in list of products and their costs sold by a store. For example, if a store like medical store and having different types of medicines and their prices, if you want to store, then we can go for array. This type of situations or scenario you can use array. Similarly, test score of a class of a student. Now suppose in BCA first year you want to store the scores or test scores of a particular subject of different types of students. So that time you can use array also. Table of a daily rainfall data. So now if you want to store the data of rainfall daily in a particular tabular format, that time we can use array and we can store the data. List of customers and their telephone data can be used, or this type of scenario also we can use the array representation. So basically the storing data, similar data and data values, if you want to store, that time we can use array. Array is a linear data structure. It can have the facilities to store the data in a sequential manner, and the related data must be the same data type. So in these are the examples where we can use array we have discussed. Now we'll go for different types of array. Now according to the structure, according to the data and storing data or capturing data, organizing data, array can be defined into three categories. One is a single dimensional array, second is two-dimensional array, and the third is multi-dimensional array. In single dimensional array, we'll have the size or the capacity to hold the values in a different manner, whereas in second or two-dimensional array and multi-dimensional array, they have a different type of size or different types of structures to hold the data or to organize the data. In single dimensional array can be refers to the array size, which is how the big the array is. A single or one-dimensional array declarations has the following forms. data types, array name and size. So now in single dimensional array you will find that a record or a particular row having multiple columns is a structure of a single array. So now when we are declaring, we have to declare first type. It may be a integer type or character type, float type, long integer. So now when we are using array structure, when we are declaring the array, so that time we have to use primitive data types. So now as we have discussed already in previous lectures that data structure can be divided into primitives and non-primitives. Here array is an example of non-primitives data structure. Why? Because it takes the help of primitive data types like int, character, float and long. But in non-primitive data structure, we cannot directly or we cannot implement the data structure directly. We have to take the primitive data types so that we can implement it. So now here data type defines the data, defines the type of elements. It can be integer, character, float and long etc. The array name is the name of a variable which represents the array, while the size which is represents in the square bracket symbol represents the size of the array. So now first we have to give the types of data, then we will have the variable name, array name, and in a square bracket we have to give the size of the array. That means how much data can be or data value can be stored in that array. Next, see how to create arrays. This is an example. So now example int num of 10. So 10 elements or 10 data value can be stored in this array. So in array the num 0 within bracket 0 square bracket of 0 reference the first element in the array. That means every time whenever you are declaring the array, so now we have to find out the first element, we have to find out the last element. How? So now in the first element the array index which is called the serial number of a particular array. So now first index will be 0. So now array starts from 0 and the last element index will be n minus 1. That means if you are storing 10 elements, so last index value will be 10 minus 1, that becomes 9. So from 0 to 9, 10 elements can be stored or data values can be stored in that array if we declared the array size is 10. Now this is the graphical representation. You can see array can be represented in this like index value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 9, and we have each and every cell you will have values, data values. So now array index of 0, that means num of 0 will be 12. So the data value will be 12 of array index 0. Similarly, if you take array of num of 9, so it holds 67 values in this particular example. So now in this particular slide, so you have to remember that array starts from 0 index, so it ends with n minus 1 index. So if you have a number of elements to be stored or data values to be stored, n minus 1 index value it will reach. So now this is how we can create an array. Now see declaring array variables, how to declare a array variables, array name. So now when we are declaring, we should have a name. That name indicates as a variable of that array. Int list of 10. So now here the declaration is first int data type, then list is the array name, and 10 is the size of array, maximum 10 data values can be stored in this particular array, which is integer data type. Now second array declaration is character num15. So now character is data type. We can have a character data types, and the variable name is num, and maximum 15 characters we can store in that particular array. Now float is another data type, and hat, hat here is the variable, and 20 is the size of this variable or array variables. So now this way we can declare array variables or array name. Now the length of arrays, how to determine or how to find out. So now once an array is created, its size is fixed. It cannot be changed. As we have already discussed in previous videos, that array is a static nonlinear data structure. Static linear data structure. So now in this particular case, you will see once you will declare an array at the beginning, int array of 10, so that array will hold maximum 10 data values. We cannot add more values on that, more than 10 values. Now if you want to insert any number to this array, that is array of 11, so this location is not initialized yet, it gives you the error. You cannot insert more than 10 elements in this array because array declaration is 10. It's a static. We cannot change at the runtime. So now when you want to give the size or you want to set the size of an array, it must be at the beginning, then only that maximum data can be stored in that array. That's the limitation, or where we can have the limitations of an array. That means we cannot change. This is a static manner we can allocate the size. Now next, two-dimensional array we discuss. This two-dimensional array, this is a type of array represents and store in the maximum in the matrix form. So now the syntax for two-dimensional array is data type, variable name, row size and column size. Here you will have two specifications, name, next immediately we have a size of the array in the single dimension, but in this particular two-dimensional array we have to specify specifically how many rows and how many columns. Two dimensions come here. Two dimensions means rows specification and column specification, but in one-dimensional array there is no specification of rows and columns, only we have to give the size. Here the size of row, then we'll have size of column. Two dimensions we have, that is row size and column size. Now two-dimensional array is a matrix form like a tabular structures like rows and columns form, where the variable names represents the name of an array, row size indicates the number of rows in the table. So row size, if you are giving in the square bracket first that row size, that becomes the number of records we have to insert, and we have to see the column size, it gives you the number of columns you can enter into a particular record or row. So now for example you can find here int cells 3 and 12. So 3 cells of 3 and 12, first square brackets we have the value 3, that indicates the number of row, number of rows, number of records. That means if you are specifying 3, as I told, array starts from 0 index. So now row 1 will be row 0. So now here 0th record, 1th record and 2nd record. So now total 0, 1, 2, so total 3 number of rows you can see in this particular figure. So now column we have a 12, maximum 12. So now it starts from 0 column to 11th, n minus 1. So now in this example you will find the row size is 3. So the row spans from the 0 to 2, while the columns spans from the 0 to 11. So now this way we can define. It's a simple program. You will have how to declare the array. As include stdio.h as functions. Then we can include the stdio.h int main, and here the declarations part you will have a of 5 and 2. So a of 5 the 5 rows and 2 columns you will have. So right hand side you can see the matrix. So 0 0 0 1. So now you will have a 0 to 4 number of rows and 0 to 1 you will have a column. So now combinations of this you will find 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1 2 0 2 1 3 0 3 1 4 0 4 1 matrix, and we will have a correspondent values. To store we have I and j variable. So I for your row number and j for column number. So now for I equal to 0, I less than equal to 5, that means we have to go for till 4, 0 to 4, that means 5 records, that I plus plus. And j, that is column size, j equal to 0, j less than 2, that means 0 1, only 2 columns you used to have, so j plus plus, that becomes the array. So this is in a program where we can define an array here. Thank you.